Krishna, everyone. Welcome back to the daily readings of Srila Prabhupada's books, right here in the live studios in Hythe, Kent, southeast England, just near the English Channel. We call it the Haven because the word Hythe in Anglo-Saxon means haven. So since we started reading every day here, it has turned into the Haven. My heart goes out to the devotees who are there in America while this tremendous inflection point has come to pass, and conflict, already some violence and possibly greater violence later on. My heart goes out to you because Srila Prabhupada loved America, because the American system was free enough to allow Srila Prabhupada to do what he needed to do, and the American devotees got behind him in such a way that he was able to forge the movement and the devotees, American devotees, to spread Krishna consciousness all over the world. So we pray to Lord Chaitanya, to Srila Prabhupada and Lord Chaitanya, that nothing happens too untoward in America, so that the movement can push on, and that many devotees, many people will become more favorable as a result of all the chaos that's going on politically. In the meantime, we're here, and Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he loved the Caitanya-caritämrta. So did Prabhupada, so did our Prabhupada. Loved the Caitanya-caritämrta. It was his life and soul coming over on the boat. You know, he had heart attacks, and still the Caitanya-caritämrta was his solace, his life and soul. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur said this poetic glorification. In due course, Mahapralaya, devastating floods, will inundate the entire universe. If you attempt to survive by swimming in that deluge, then do not neglect to take hold of Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, and Sri Caitanya-caritämrta. Or if you cannot hold all three, then release Bhagavad Gita. If necessary, you may also relinquish Srimad Bhagavatam, but under no circumstances release your hold on Sri Caitanya-caritämrta. For if this one book remains, then the flood can do no actual damage, because after the flood has subsided, the message of Shastra can be revived from Sri Caitanya-caritämrta alone, it being the essence of all Shastras. Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda, Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda, Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda, Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda, Jaya Jaya Sri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda, Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. So we've reached the 9th chapter of the Antya-līlā, the deliverance of Gopīnātha Paṭṭanāyaka. The 9th chapter is summarized as follows. Gopīnātha Paṭṭanāyaka, the son of Bhavananda Roy, was engaged in the service of the government, but he misappropriated some funds from the treasury. Therefore the Badajana, the eldest son of King Prataparudra, ordered that he be punished by death. Thus Gopīnātha Paṭṭanāyaka was raised on the Changa to be killed, but by the mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he was delivered. Moreover, he was even promoted to a higher post. Text 1. The innumerable glorious followers of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu brought a constant flood to the desert-like hearts of the unfortunate with an inundation of ecstatic love. Text 2. All glories to Sri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the most merciful incarnation. All glories to Lord Nityananda, whose heart is always compassionate. All glories to Advaita Chandra. All glories to Advaita Acharya, who is very merciful. All glories to the devotees of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who are always overwhelmed by transcendental bliss. Text 4. Thus, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu lived at Nilachala, Jagannath Puri, with his personal devotees, always merged in ecstatic love for Krishna. Text 5. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu always felt waves of separation from Krishna, externally and internally. His mind and body were agitated by various spiritual transformations. 6. During the day, he chanted, danced, and saw Lord Jagannath in the temple. At night, he tasted transcendental bliss in the company of Ramananda Roy and Sarup Damodar. 7. People from the three worlds used to come visit Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Anyone who saw him received the transcendental treasure of love for Krishna. Text 8. The inhabitants of the 7 higher planetary systems, including the demigods, the Gandharvas, and the Kinnaras, and the inhabitants of the 7 lower planetary systems, Paṭṭaloka, including the demons and serpentine living entities, all visited Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in the dress of human beings. Text 9. Dressed in different ways, people from the 7 islands and 9 khandas visited Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. 10. Prahlad Maharaj, Bali Maharaj, Vyasadeva, Shukadev Goswami, and other great sages came to visit Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Upon seeing them, they became unconscious in ecstatic love for Krishna. Purport. According to the opinion of some historians, Prahlad Maharaj was born in the Treta Yuga in the city of Multan in the state of Punjab. He was born of Hiranyakashipu, a king of the dynasty of Kashyapa. Prahlad Maharaj was a great devotee of Lord Vishnu, but his father was very much against Vishnu. Because the father and son thus differed in their consciousness, the demon father inflicted all kinds of bodily pain upon Prahlad. When this torture became intolerable, the Supreme Lord appeared as Nrsingadev and killed the great demon, Hiranyakashipu. Bali Maharaj was the grandson of Prahlad Maharaj. The son of Prahlad Maharaj was Virochana, and his son was known as Bali. Appearing as Vamana and begging Bali Maharaj for 3 feet of land, the Lord took possession of the entire 3 worlds. Thus Bali Maharaj became a great devotee of Lord Vamana. Bali Maharaj had 100 sons, of whom Maharaj Bana was the eldest and most famous. Vyasadeva was the son of the great sage Parashara. Other names for him are Satyavateya and Krishnadvaipayana, Badarayana Muni. Krishnadvaipayana, Badarayana Muni. As one of the authorities of on the Vedas, he divided the original Veda for convenience into 4 divisions: Sama, Yajur, Rig, and Atharva. He is the author of 18 Puranas, as well as the theosophical thesis Brahma Sutra and its natural commentary Srimad Bhagavatam. He belongs to the Brahma Sampradaya and is the direct disciple of Narada Muni. Shukadeva Goswami is the son of Vyasadeva. He was a brahmachari, fully conscious of Brahman realization, but later he became a great devotee of Lord Krishna. He narrated Srimad Bhagavatam to Maharaj Parikshit. Text 11. Being unable to see Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the populace outside his room would make a tumultuous sound. Thus, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would go outside and tell them, chant Hare Krishna. Text 12. All kinds of people would come to see the Lord, and upon seeing him, they would be overwhelmed with ecstatic love for Krishna. In this way, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu passed his days and nights. Text 13. One day, people suddenly came to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and informed him, Gopīnātha Paṭṭanāyaka, the son of Bhavananda Roy, has been condemned to death by the Badajana, the eldest son of the king. He has been raised on the Changa. Purport. The Changa was a device for killing a condemned person. It consisted of a raised platform on which the condemned was made to stand. Underneath the platform, there were stationary upright swords. The condemned man would be pushed down onto the swords, and in this way he would die. For some reason, Gopīnātha Paṭṭanāyaka had been condemned to death and had therefore been raised upon the Changa. 14. The Badajana had placed swords beneath the platform, they said, and will throw Gopīnātha upon them. O Lord, only if you protect him will he be saved. Bhavananda Roy and his entire family are your servants. Therefore it is quite fitting for you to save the son of Bhavananda Roy. Text 16. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu inquired, why was the king chastising him? Thereupon the people described the entire incident. They said Gopīnātha Paṭṭanāyaka, the brother of Ramananda Roy, has always been a treasurer for the government. He served in a place known as Malajatya Dandapata, soliciting and collecting money there and depositing it in the government treasury. Text 19. Once when he deposited the collection, however, a balance of 200,000 kahanas of conch shells was due from him. Therefore the king demanded this sum. 20. Gopīnātha Paṭṭanāyaka replied, there is no money I can immediately give you in cash. Please give me time. Gradually I shall purchase and sell my gross goods, and in this way fill your treasury. 21. There are 10 to 12 good horses. Take them immediately for a proper price. After saying this, he brought all the horses to the door of the king. One of the princes knew how to estimate the price of horses very well. Thus the king sent for him to come with his ministers and friends. 23. The prince, however, purposely gave a reduced estimate for the value of the horses. When Gopīnātha Paṭṭanāyaka heard the price quoted, he was very angry. 24. That prince had a personal idiosyncrasy of turning his neck and facing the sky, looking here and there, again and again. Text 25. Gopīnātha Paṭṭanāyaka criticized the prince. He was unafraid of the prince because the king was very kind toward him. 26. Gopīnātha Paṭṭanāyaka said, "My horses never turn their necks or look upward. Therefore the price for them should not be reduced." 27. Hearing this criticism, the prince became very angry. Going before the king, he made some false allegations against Gopīnātha Paṭṭanāyaka. It's been going on everywhere, at all time, huh? 28. This Gopīnātha Paṭṭanāyaka, he said, is unwilling to pay the money due. Instead, he is squandering it under some pretext. If you issue an order, I can put him on the changa and thus realize the money. The king replied, "You can adopt whatever means you think best. Any device by which you can somehow or other realize the money is all right." 30. Thus the prince went back, raised Gopīnātha Paṭṭanāyaka onto the platform of the changa, and spread swords below upon which to throw him. 31. After hearing this explanation, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu replied with affectionate anger, "Gopīnātha Paṭṭanāyaka does not want to pay the king the money that is due," the Lord said. "How then is the king at fault for punishing him?" 32. Gopīnātha Paṭṭanāyaka is in charge of collecting money on behalf of the government, but he misappropriates it. Not fearing the king, he squanders it to see dancing girls. Text 33. If one is intelligent, let him perform service to the government, and after paying the government, he can spend whatever money is left. At that time, another person came there in great haste, bringing the news that Vaninath Roy and his entire family had been arrested. 35. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, "The king must personally realize the money that is due, but I am a sannyasi, a member of the renounced order. What can I do?" 36. Then all the devotees, headed by Swarup Damodar Goswami, fell at the lotus feet of Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and submitted the following plea. "All the members of Ramananda Roy's family are your eternal servants. Now they are in danger. It is not befitting for you to be indifferent to them in this way." 38. After hearing this, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu spoke in an angry mood. You want to order me to go to the king?" he said. "Your opinion is that I should go to the king's palace and spread my cloth to beg money from him? Of course, a sannyasi or brahmana may beg for up to 5 gandas, but why should he be granted the inappropriate sum of 200,000 kahanas of conch shells?" Then another person came with the news that Gopīnātha had already been set up to be thrown upon the points of the swords. Hearing this news, all the devotees again appealed to the Lord, but the Lord replied, "I am a beggar. It is impossible for me to do anything about this." 43. Therefore, if you want to save him, you should all pray together at the lotus feet of Jagannath. 44. Lord Jagannath is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He possesses all potencies. Therefore, he is able to act freely, and can do and undo whatever he likes. When Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu replied in this way, an officer named Harichandan Patra went to the king and spoke with him. After all, he said, Gopīnātha Paṭṭanāyaka is your faithful servant. To condemn a servant to death is not good behavior. His only fault is that he owes some money to the government. If he is killed, however, what profit will there be? The government will be the loser, for it will not get the money. It would be better to take the horses for a proper price and let him gradually repay the balance. Why are you killing him unnecessarily? The king answered in surprise, I did not know about all this. Why should his life be taken? I only want the money from him. Text 50. Go there and adjust everything. I want only the payment, not his life. 51. Harichandra then returned and informed the prince of the king's desire, and immediately Gopīnātha Paṭṭanāyaka was taken down from the Changa. Then he was told that the king demanded the money due him and asked what means he would adopt to pay it. Kindly take my horses, he replied, for a proper price. I shall gradually pay the balance as I can. Without consideration, however, you are going to take my life. What can I say? Then the government took all the horses for a proper price. A time was set for payment of the balance, and Gopīnātha Paṭṭanāyaka was released. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu inquired from the messenger, what was Vadinath doing when he was arrested and brought here? The messenger replied, he was fearlessly, incessantly chanting the Mahamantra, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. He counted the chants on the fingers of both hands, and after he had finished chanting 1,000 times, he would make a mark on his body. Text 58. Hearing this news, the Lord was very pleased. Who can understand the mercy of the Lord upon his devotee? 59. At that time, Kashimisha came to the residence of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and the Lord talked with him with some agitation. 60. I cannot stay here any longer, the Lord said. I shall go to Alalanath. There are too many disturbances here, and I cannot get any rest. 61. All the family members of Bhavananda Roy were engaged in government service, but they spend the money's revenue in various ways. What is the fault on the part of the king? He wants the government's money. However, when they are punished for failing to pay the government its due, they come to me to release them. When the king put Gopīnātha Paṭṭanāyaka on the Changa, messengers came 4 times to inform me about the incident. As a beggar sannyasi, a mendicant, I wish to live alone in a solitary place, but these people come to tell me about their unhappiness and disturb me. 65. Jagannath has saved them once from death today, but if tomorrow he again does not pay what he owes the treasury, who will give him protection? Purport. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Supreme Personality of Godhead will certainly protect a devotee who does something sinful accidentally. As the Lord says in the Bhagavad Gita 9:30 and 31, Apichet sududachado bhajate mam ananyabhag sadureva samantavyak samyag vyavasito hisaha chipram bhavati dharmatma shashvaschantim nigachtati kauntiya pratijanihi name bhakta pranashyati. Even if one commits the most abominable actions, if he is engaged in devotional service, he is to be considered saintly because he is properly situated in his determination. He quickly becomes righteous and attains lasting peace. O son of Kunti, Declare it boldly that my devotee never perishes. However, if a devotee or so-called devotee purposefully commits sinful activities continually in the hope that Krishna will give him protection, Krishna will not protect him. Therefore, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, Kali ke rakhibe yadina dibe rajadana. Jagannath has saved Gopīnātha Paṭṭanāyaka from being killed by the king today, but if he commits the same offense again, who will give him protection? Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu thus warns all such foolish devotees that Jagannath will not protect them if they continue to commit offenses. 66. If I hear about the activities of materialistic persons, my mind becomes agitated. There is no need for me to stay here and be disturbed in that way. 67. Kashimisha caught hold of the Lord's lotus feet and said, Why should you be agitated by these affairs? You are a renounced sannyasi. What connections do you have? One who worships you for some material purpose is blind to all knowledge. Purport. Becoming a devotee of the Lord to serve material purposes is a great mistake. Many people can become show-bottle devotees for material profits. Indeed, materialistic persons sometimes take to professional devotional service and keep Vishnu, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, as a means of livelihood. None of this, however, is approved. In the book known as Saptashati, as mentioned by Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, one can discover how a person worshipping the goddess Durga begs her for different varieties of material profit. Such activities are very popular among people in general, but they are the attempts of foolish, blind people. Say jnana anda. A materialist does not actually know why one should become a devotee. A devotee's only concern is to satisfy the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Pure devotional service is defined by Srila Rupa Goswami. Anyabhilashita shunyam, jnana karma janavritam, anukulyana krishnanu shilanam bhaktir uttama. One should be completely free from all material desires, and should serve Krishna simply to please him. When people become interested in their own sense gratification, bhukti mukti siddhi kami, some of them desire to enjoy the material world to the fullest extent. Some of them desire to be liberated and merge into the existence of Brahman, and others want to perform magic through mystic power and thus become incarnations of God. These are all against the principles of devotional service. One must be free from all material desires. The desire of the impersonalist to merge into the existence of Brahman is also material, because such an impersonalist wants to gratify his senses by merging into the existence of Krishna instead of serving his lotus feet. Even if such a person merges into the Brahman effulgence, he falls down again into material existence. As stated in Srimad Bhagavatam 10.2.32, Aruya krich trena padam tata padantyado nadvisha yushmad andrayaha. Because Mayavadi philosophers have no information regarding the transcendental service of the Lord, even after attaining liberation from material activities and merging into the Brahman effulgence, they must come down again to this material world. 69. Kashi Mishra continued, If one engages in devotional service for your satisfaction, this will result in his increasingly awakening his dormant love for you. But if one engages in your devotional service for material purposes, he should be considered a number one fool. Purport. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur comments that there are many materialistic persons who become preachers, gurus, religionists, or philosophers only for the sake of maintaining a high standard of living and sense gratification for themselves and their families. Sometimes they adopt the dress of a sannyasi or preacher. They train some of their family members as lawyers and continually seek help from the high court to acquire riches on the plea of maintaining temples. Although such persons may call themselves preachers, live in Vrindavan or Navadvip, and also print many religious books, it is all for the same purpose, namely to earn a living to maintain their wives and children. They may also professionally recite the Bhagavatam or other scriptures, worship the deity in the temple, and initiate disciples. Making a show of devotional paraphernalia, they may also collect money from the public and use it to cure the disease of some family member or near relative. Sometimes they become Babajis or collect money on the plea of worshipping the poor, whom they called Daridra Narayana, or for social and political upliftment. Thus they spread a network of business schemes to collect money for sense gratification by cheating people in general who have no knowledge of pure devotional service. Such cheaters cannot understand that by offering devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one can be elevated to a position of eternal servitude to the Lord, which is even greater than the position of Brahma and other demigods. Unfortunately, fools have no understanding of the perpetual pleasure of devotional service. Text 70. It is only for your sake that Ramananda Roy resigned the governorship of South India and Sanatana Goswami gave up his post as minister. It is for your sake that Raghunath Das gave up all his family relationships. His father sent money and men here to serve him. Text 72. However, because he has received the mercy of your lotus feet, he does not even accept his father's money. Instead, he eats by begging alms from the centers for the distribution of food. Text 73. Gopīnātha Paṭṭanāyaka is a good gentleman. He does not desire material benefits from you. It is not Gopīnātha who sent all those men so that you would release him from his plight. Rather, his friends and servants, seeing his distressed condition, informed you because they all knew that Gopīnātha is a soul surrendered unto you. Gopīnātha Paṭṭanāyaka is a pure devotee who worships you only for your satisfaction. He does not care about his personal happiness or distress, for that is the business of a materialist. One who engages in your devotional service 24 hours a day, desiring only your mercy, will very soon attain shelter at your lotus feet. Text 77. Tatte nukampam susamikshamano bunjana evatmakritam vipakam ridbag vapurbir vididannamaste jivetayo muktipade sadayabhag. One who seeks your compassion and thus tolerates all kinds of adverse conditions due to the karma of his past deeds, who engages always in your devotional service with his mind, words, and body, and who always offers obeisances unto you, is certainly a bona fide candidate for becoming your unalloyed devotee. Purport. This verse is from Srimad Bhagavatam 10:14-8. Text 78. Kindly stay here at Jagannath Puri. Why should you go to Allhalanath? Henceforward, no one will approach you about material affairs. 79. Finally, Kashi Mishra told the Lord, if you want to give protection to Gopīnātha, then Lord Jagannath, who protected him today, will also protect him in the future. Text 80. After saying this, Kashi Mishra left the abode of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and returned to his own temple. At noon, King Prataparudra came to Kashi Mishra's home. 81. As long as King Prataparudra stayed at Purushottam, he performed one regular duty. He would come daily to the house of Kashi Mishra to massage his lotus feet. The king would also hear from him about how opulently Lord Jagannath was being served. When the king began pressing his lotus feet, Kashi Mishra informed him about something through hints. My dear king, he said, please hear one uncommon item of news. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu wants to leave Jagannath Puri and go to Allhalanath. 85. When the king heard that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was going to Allhalanath, he was very unhappy and inquired about the reason. Then Kashi Mishra informed him of all the details. When Gopīnātha Paṭṭanāyaka was lifted onto the Changa, he said, all his servants went to inform Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Hearing about this, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was extremely sorry at heart, and in anger he chastised Gopīnātha Paṭṭanāyaka. Because he is mad after sense gratification, the Lord said, he acts as a government servant, but spends the government's revenue for various sinful activities. The revenue of the government is more sacred than the property of a brahmana. One who misappropriates the government's money and uses it to enjoy sense gratification is most sinful. I think we should write a few notes to a few government leaders nowadays. We'll read this again. The revenue of the government is more sacred than the property of a brahmana. One who misappropriates the government's money and uses it to enjoy sense gratification is most sinful. What to speak of if the government does it themselves? Text 90. One who serves the government but misappropriates the government's revenue is liable to be punished by the king. That is the verdict of all revealed scriptures. The king wanted his revenue paid and did not want to enforce punishment. Therefore the king is certainly very religious, but Gopīnātha Paṭṭanāyaka is a great cheat. He does not pay the revenue to the king, but he wants my help for release. This is a greatly sinful affair. I cannot tolerate it here. Therefore I shall leave Jagannath Puri and go to Allhalanath, where I shall live peacefully and not hear about all these affairs of materialistic people. 94. When King Prataparudra heard all these details, he felt great pain in his mind. I shall give up all that is due from Gopīnātha Paṭṭanāyaka, he said, if Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu will stay here in Jagannath Puri. If even for a moment I could get an interview with Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, I would not care for the profit of millions of Chintamani stones. I do not care about this small sum of 200,000 kahanas. What to speak of this, I would indeed sacrifice everything at the lotus feet of the Lord, including my life and kingdom. Kashi Mishra hinted to the king, it is not the Lord's desire that you forfeit the payment. He is unhappy only because the whole family is troubled. The king replied, I had no desire to give pain to Gopīnātha Paṭṭanāyaka and his family, nor did I know about his being lifted onto the changa to be thrown on the swords and killed. He sneered at Purushottam Jana. Therefore the prince tried to scare him as a punishment. Go personally to see Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and keep him at Jagannath Puri with great attention. I shall excuse Gopīnātha Paṭṭanāyaka from all his debts. Kashi Mishra said, excusing Gopīnātha Paṭṭanāyaka of all his debts will make the Lord unhappy, for that is not his intention. The king said, I shall absolve Gopīnātha Paṭṭanāyaka of all his debts, but don't speak of this to the Lord. Simply let him know that all the family members of Bhavananda Roy, including Gopīnātha Paṭṭanāyaka, are naturally my dear friends. Bhavananda Roy is worthy of my worship and respect. Therefore, I am always naturally affectionate to his sons. After offering obeisances to Kashi Mishra, the king returned to his palace and called for both Gopīnātha and the eldest prince. The king told Gopīnātha Paṭṭanāyaka, you are excused for all the money you owe the treasury, and the place known as Majalatya, Malajatya Dandapata is again given to you for collections. 106. Do not again misappropriate the revenue of the government. In case you think your salary is insufficient, henceforward it will be doubled. 107. After saying this, the king appointed him by offering him a silken wrapper for his body. Go to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he said. After taking permission from him, go to your home. I bid you farewell. Now you may go. 108. By the mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, one can certainly become spiritually advanced. Indeed, no one can estimate the results of his mercy. Gopīnātha Paṭṭanāyaka achieved the result of kingly opulence due to but a glimpse of the Lord's mercy. Therefore, no one can calculate the full value of his mercy. Text 110. Gopīnātha Paṭṭanāyaka was lifted under the changa to be killed, and all his money was taken away. But instead, his debts were excused, and he was appointed collector in the same place. 111. On one hand, Gopīnātha Paṭṭanāyaka was unable to clear his debt even by selling all his possessions. But on the other hand, his salary was doubled, and he was honored with a silken wrapper. Text 112. It was not the desire of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu that Gopīnātha Paṭṭanāyaka be excused of his debt to the government, nor was it his desire that his salary be doubled or that he be reappointed collector at the same place. When Gopīnātha Paṭṭanāyaka's servant went to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and informed the Lord of his plight, the Lord was somewhat agitated and dissatisfied. The Lord had no intention of awarding his devotee the happiness of material opulence, yet simply because of his being informed, such a great result was obtained. No one can estimate the wonderful characteristics of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Even Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva cannot understand the intentions of the Lord. 116. Kashi Mishra went to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and informed him in detail of all the king's intentions. Upon hearing about Kashi Mishra's tactics with the king, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, "Kashi Mishra, what have you done? You have made me indirectly take help from the king." Purport. When the king heard the details of Gopīnātha Paṭṭanāyaka's unfortunate condemnation, he was induced to excuse his debt, in particular because he felt that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was very sorry about this incident. The Lord did not like the idea that the money forfeited to Gopīnātha Paṭṭanāyaka was indirectly a contribution to him. Therefore, he immediately protested. Text 118. Kashi Mishra said, "My dear Lord, the king has done this without reservations. Kindly hear his statement." The king said, "Speak to the Lord in such a way that he will not think, for my sake, the king has forfeited 200,000 kahanas of kaudis." Purport. The kaudi is like an American cent or Japanese yen. In the old medium of exchange, the first unit of currency was a small conch shell called a kaudi. 4 kaudis made 1 ganda, 20 gandas made 1 pana, and 16 panas made 1 kahana. Gopīnātha Paṭṭanāyaka owed the government 200,000 kahanas. The king absolved him of this debt, reappointed him to his post, and doubled his salary. 120. Inform Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu that all the sons of Bhavananda Roy are especially dear to me. I consider them like members of my family. Therefore I have appointed them collectors in various places, and although they spend the government's money, eat, drink, plunder, and distribute it as they like, I do not take them very seriously. Text 122. I made Ramananda Roy the governor of Rajamundry. There is practically no account of whatever money he took and distributed in that position. Purport. Near Rajamundry is a famous railway station. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati notes that the present Rajamundry city is located on the northern bank of the Godavari. At the time when Ramananda Roy was governor, however, the state capital, which was known as Vidyanagar or Vidyapur, was located on the southern side of the Godavari, at the confluence of the Godavari and the sea. That was the part of the country which at that time was known as Rajamundry. North of Kalingadesh is Utkalinga, or the state of Orissa. The capital of southern Orissa was known as Rajamundry, but now the location of Rajamundry has changed. Text 123. Having been appointed collector, Gopīnātha in the same way also generally spends 200,000 to 400,000 kahanas as he likes. 124. Gopīnātha Paṭṭanāyaka would collect some money and pay some. Gopīnātha Paṭṭanāyaka would collect some and pay some, spending it at will. But I would not consider this very seriously. This time, however, he was put into trouble because of a misunderstanding with the prince. 125. The prince created this situation without my knowledge, but actually, I consider all the sons of Bhavananda Roy to be like my relatives. 126. Because of my intimate relationship with them, I have absolved Gopīnātha Paṭṭanāyaka of all his debts. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu does not know this fact. Whatever I have done is because of my intimate relationship with the family of Bhavananda Roy. Having heard from Kashi Mishra all these statements concerning the king's mentality, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was very happy. At that time, Bhavananda Roy arrived there. Bhavananda Roy, along with his 5 sons, fell at the lotus feet of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who lifted him up and embraced him. Thus Ramananda Roy, all his brothers and their father, met Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Then Bhavananda Roy began speaking. All these members of my family, he said, are your eternal servants. You have saved us from this great danger. Therefore, you have purchased us for a proper price. 131. You have now demonstrated your love for your devotees, just as when you previously saved the 5 Pandavas from great danger. Gopīnātha Paṭṭanāyaka, his head covered with the silken wrapper, fell at the lotus feet of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and described in detail the king's mercy toward him. The king has excused me for the balance due, he said. He has reappointed me to my post by honoring me with this silken cloth and has doubled my salary. I was lifted upon the changa to be killed, but instead I was honored with this silken cloth. This is all your mercy. On the changa, I began meditating upon your lotus feet, and the power of that remembrance has yielded all these results. Struck with wonder by my affairs, the populace is glorifying the greatness of your mercy. However, my Lord, these are not the principal results of meditating upon your lotus feet. Material opulence is very flickering. Therefore, it is simply a glimpse of the result of your mercy. Purport. One can achieve the highest perfection of life simply by meditating upon the lotus feet of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Generally, people are concerned with the 4 religious principles, namely religion, material opulence, sense gratification, and liberation. However, as indicated in Srimad Bhagavatam, Dharmak projito kaitavotra. Success in these 4 kinds of material and spiritual gain are not the true results of devotional service. The true result of devotional service is the actual development of one's dormant love for Krishna in every circumstance. By the mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Gopīnātha Paṭṭanāyaka could understand that the material benefits he had achieved were not the ultimate result of meditating upon his lotus feet. The true result comes when one is detached from material opulences. Therefore, Gopīnātha Paṭṭanāyaka prayed to the Lord for such detachment. 138. Your real mercy has been granted to Ramananda Roy and Baninath Roy, for you have detached them from all material opulence. I think that I have not been favored. By such mercy. Kindly bestow upon me your pure mercy, so that I may also become renounced. I am no longer interested in material enjoyment. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, if you all adopt the renounced order and lose interest in dealing with pounds, shillings, and pence, who will take charge of maintaining your large family? Whether you are involved in material activities or become completely renounced, you 5 brothers are all my eternal servants, birth after birth. Purport. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur comments that one should always remember that he is eternally a servant of Krishna. Whether one is engaged in material activity involving pounds, shillings, and pence, or is in the renounced order, he should always think that he is an eternal servant of God, for that is the real position of the living being. Both taking sannyas and dealing in pounds, shillings, and pence are external affairs. In any condition, one should always consider how to please and satisfy Krishna. Thus, even if one is involved in great material affairs, he will not become attached. As soon as one forgets that he is an eternal servant of Krishna, he becomes involved in material attachments. However, if one is always conscious that Krishna is the Supreme Master and that he is an eternal servant of Krishna, he is a liberated person in any condition. Entangling material activities will not affect him. 142. However, just obey one order from me. Do not spend any of the king's revenue. Purport. When a person forgets his position as an eternal servant of Krishna, he commits many sinful activities. But one who maintains his position as an eternal servant of Krishna cannot deviate from the path of morality, religion, and ethics. At the present, people all over the world, especially in India, have forgotten their relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead and His eternal servants. Therefore, the principles of morality, religion, and ethics have almost disappeared. This situation is most unprofitable for human society. Therefore, everyone should try to accept Krishna consciousness and follow the principles of Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu. First, you should pay the revenue due the king, and then you may spend the balance for religious and fruitive activities. Don't spend a farthing for sinful activities, for which you will be the loser both in this life and the next. After saying this, Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu bade them farewell. 145. Thus the mercy of Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu was spoken of in the family of Bhavananda Roy. That mercy was clearly demonstrated, although it appeared to be something different. Purport. The result of advancement in spiritual knowledge is not material improvement. But Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu advised Gopīnātha Paṭṭanāyaka how to use material opulence without incurring reactions to sinful life. From this advice it appeared that the Lord encouraged Gopīnātha Paṭṭanāyaka to enhance his material condition. Actually, however, he did not. In fact, this was but a manifestation of his great affection for his devotee. Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu embraced them all and bade them farewell. Then all the devotees got up and left, loudly chanting the holy name of Hari. Seeing the extraordinary mercy the Lord granted to the family of Bhavananda Roy, everyone was struck with wonder. They could not understand the behavior of Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu. Indeed, when all the devotees had requested the Lord to bestow his mercy upon Gopīnātha Paṭṭanāyaka, the Lord had replied that he could do nothing. Purport. When a person is sinful, he loses both the chance for spiritual advancement and the chance for material opulence. If one enjoys the material world for sense gratification, he is certainly doomed. Advancement in material opulence is not the direct mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Nevertheless, it indicates the indirect mercy of the Lord, for even a person too attached to material prosperity can gradually be detached and raised to the spiritual platform. Then he can offer causeless, purified service to the Lord. When Sri Caitanya said, "Ama haite kichu nahe," it is not my business to do anything, he set the ideal example for a person in the renounced order. If a sannyasi takes the side of a vishayi, a person engaged in material activities, his character will be criticized. A person in the renounced order should not take interest in material activities, but if he does so out of affection, for a particular person, that should be considered his special mercy. Text 149. I have simply described the chastisement of Gopīnātha, Paṭṭanāyaka, and Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu's indifference. But the deep meaning of this behavior is very difficult to understand. Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu gave so much to Gopīnātha Paṭṭanāyaka without directly making requests of either Kashi Mishra or the king. The intentions of Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu. Oh, what happened? Sorry, it went very far. Wow, it's amazing. Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu gave so much to Gopīnātha Paṭṭanāyaka without directly making requests of either Kashi Mishra or the king. The intentions of Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu are so deep that one can understand them only if he has complete faith in service to the lotus feet of the Lord. Whether or not one understands it, if one hears of this incident concerning the activities of Gopīnātha Paṭṭanāyaka and Lord Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu's causeless mercy upon him, certainly one will be promoted to the platform of ecstatic love for the Lord, and for him all dangers will be nullified. Hare Krishna. I'll repeat this. Whether or not one understands, if one hears of this incident concerning the activities of Gopīnātha Paṭṭanāyaka and Lord Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu's causeless mercy upon him, certainly one will be promoted to the platform of ecstatic love for the Lord, and for him all dangers will be nullified. Shri Rupa Raghunatha Padiyara Ash, Caitanya-caritāmrta, Kahe, Krishna Das. Praying at the lotus feet of Shri Rupa and Shri Raghunath, always desiring their mercy, I, Krishna Das, narrate Shri Caitanya-caritāmrta, following in their footsteps. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purports to Shri Caitanya-caritāmrta, Antya-līlā, 9th chapter, describing the deliverance of Gopīnātha Paṭṭanāyaka and the manifestation of Lord Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu's causeless mercy to his devotees. Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu's mercy upon Gopīnātha Paṭṭanāyaka and Gopīnātha Paṭṭanāyaka's entire family, including Bhavananda Roy, Ramananda Roy, and the other brothers. Gaur Premanandi, Hari Hari Bol. Okay, you know, I rarely read that much, but I knew that this was a short chapter, and I could do it in one go, and that way we would get the full mercy of this pastime. Hare Krishna. So, if one has any kind of yes, please. Let me be enriched by the reflections of the assembled sages.
First we have something from Braj Ballabha.
Braj Ballabha, you are first out of the gate. Wonderful.
He says, Hare Krishna Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. After yesterday's readings, I have two questions. One, how do we emulate the tolerance and humility displayed by Lord Chaitanya?
No one can imitate the qualities of Lord Chaitanya. We shouldn't try. it's a futile attempt, and it will be an embarrassment. But what we can do is try to emulate the qualities of Lord Chaitanya's devotees. We're meant to follow in the footsteps of Lord Chaitanya's devotees, but not by imitating them, but by following their example. For example, Srila Prabhupada told us that no one can imitate Haridas Thakur and chant 300,000 names a day, 192 rounds. But we can follow in his footsteps by strictly chanting the 16 rounds a day that he prescribed for initiation, minimum. Not that we can't chant more, we can chant more. I mean, I chant 32 now a day as a added vow of my own personal vow, but the 16 rounds must be done. And in that way we follow in the footsteps of Haridas Thakur. See? So by following in the footsteps of Srila Prabhupada and following in his example, according to our capacity, then we can follow in the footsteps of all the Lord's associates properly, according to time, place, circumstance, and where we are and what we can do. Follow the 4 regular principles, chant 16 rounds, try to chant without offense, hear and chant the glories of the Lord in the company of other like-minded devotees. And we'll go back to Godhead. What more do we want? And whatever else we do in service, that is gravy, as we say. Well, maybe that might be not a good example. Gravy is kind of gross. Hare Krishna.
The second question was, is it me or is Lord Chaitanya very sweet like sugar?
He is sweeter than sugar. He is sweeter than the sweetest thing. There's no comparison to his sweetness with anything in the material world. Although we do, use analogies, similes to try to understand how sweet he is. Yes, you're absolutely right. He's sweeter than sugar.
Sudevi Dasi says, Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Who?
Sudevi.
Sudevi Dasi. Haribol Sudevi.
And from Krishnangi Mulder, says, Hare Krishna, please accept my humble obeisances, Maharaj. I extend my gratitude to you.
Hare Krishna. I'm so deeply indebted to Srila Prabhupada that I can't ever repay it. So I try my best by reading every day to the devotees. I feel this is the safest place in the 3 worlds.
There's a comment from Shamya Pras Das.
Samya Pras, long time no hear. Hare Krishna.
He says, Srila Prabhupada's books, Ki Jai.
Jai.
His Holiness Keshav Bharati Maharaj Ki Jai.
Oh, that's sweet of you. Thank you.
And from Gopīnātha Dasi.
Gopīnātha Dasi Ki Jai. Oh, Haribol.
She says, Hare Krishna, dear Maharaj, and all devotee friends, all glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Jai Srila Prabhupada. Jai Srila Prabhupada's family. Hare Krishna.
There's another comment from Braj Balaba. He says, I have to say this is a good mentality to have. When there is some professional windfall, I used to think, what a great job I did. Now I see I have made some effort, but without Krishna's sanction, my effort alone is like a bucket with a hole. Useless.
Well said, Brajabalab. Well said.
Next is something from Rati Manjari.
Haribol Rati.
She says, Dear Guru Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances. Tonight was another fascinating story with many aspects to it, some of them seemingly contradictory. Perhaps due to Lord Chaitanya's many different layers of behavior, being both a great devotee of the Lord, a sannyasi, as well as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, it is not completely clear to me what the main points are which we should gain from hearing this pastime. Would you please illuminate on these?
The lesson is that if you're a pure devotee of Lord Chaitanya, then your life is all auspicious. And Lord Chaitanya, even though he is in the position of a sannyasi and doesn't directly get involved in material affairs, still, just because of the love that his devotees show to him, he feels obliged to protect them, and he protects them, even though it appears like he's not protecting them, but he's protecting them. Therefore, whoever you are, whatever you are, take full shelter of the lotus feet of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and you will be protected always. And there's no other way to get deliverance into, or to attain Goloka Vrindavan and Hare Krishna.
Next is something from Dayal Nitai.
Yes, Dalitai.
He says, Dear Srila Guru Maharaj, please accept my obeisance. Thank you for your public readings. From verses read yesterday and today, it appears that an economy existed based on seashells, which I imagine may have been fairly easily found on the seashore. Would you please want to explain how it actually worked?
No idea. No idea how that works. Hare Krishna. Sorry to disappoint you.
Saloni Sachi Sundari.
Yeah.
Says, Hare Krishna Maharaj, all glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to your divine service. And from Bhakta Ben, he says, Hare Krishna Maharaj, thanks for the overtime tonight. The conclusion to the chapter had me smiling like anything. Jai Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu.
Jai Mahaprabhu ki Jai.
And from Vilas Manjari, she says, Dear Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances. I appreciated how Lord Chaitanya instructed the brothers that whether renounced or in family life, the essential understanding is to see oneself as a servant of Krishna and offer our activities for his pleasure, and
Yes.
this will naturally make one moral.
Yes, well said. That was one of the morals of the story. Yes, well said.
Something more from Rati Manjari.
Yes, Rati.
She says, Thank you. I also noted that the translation which we heard to the famous verse of Srimad Bhagavatam 10.14.8, which we heard tonight, was different than how it is translated in Srimad Bhagavatam 10.14.8 cited here. My dear Lord, one who earnestly waits for you to bestow your causeless mercy upon him, all the while patiently suffering the reactions of his past misdeeds, and offering you respectful obeisances with his heart, words, and body, is surely eligible for liberation, for it has become his rightful claim. Would you please elaborate, if you think it necessary, to the different nuances in the translation? Or is this not so important?
Sometimes Srila Prabhupada translated the same verse in another scripture or in another place in order to bring out the flavor of the pastime that's being described. And I can't go further than that, because who am I to understand the mind of Srila Prabhupada? But it's a fact that he did sometimes give different translations in different places to bring out the nuances of the particular pastime. In this case, it's Gopīnātha Paṭṭanāyaka, who was a fully surrendered devotee of Lord Chaitanya. Therefore he revealed what he was thinking about when he was on the Changa, about to be killed. And he was just praying to Lord Chaitanya and chanting Hare Krishna and being his pure devotee. And therefore, because he was like that, he was saved. Even though it didn't appear that Lord Chaitanya did anything. But he did. And that's the mystery of Lord Chaitanya's pastimes. He's doing everything. Don't you remember when Damodar said, Lord, your pastimes are wonderful. You caused Sanatana Goswami to get that horrible disease, in the jungle, so that you could test him and bestow your causeless mercy upon him and demonstrate to the whole world what the power of your mercy is. So how can you understand? Lord Chaitanya made him, get that disease so that he could test him and glorify him and elevate him. How can you understand? We're like an ant trying to understand what the Empire State Building is, or some huge structure. He's just crawling on the wall, trying to understand, some big structure. It means that the Lord's mercy is inconceivable unless you actually accept it to be inconceivable. In other words, unless you actually accept that these things actually happened, and they happened for the reasons that they're being explained. That's the purpose. Because if you hear like that, with full faith, without argument, understanding that this is the causeless mercy of the Lord is inconceivable, unlimited, he can do anything, even if it sounds contradictory, even if it sounds illogical, even if it sounds contradictory. It makes no difference. The Lord can do whatever he likes, and the results of his pastimes are always wonderful. Hare Krishna. Sri Caitanya-caritämrta ki jai. Samaveda Bhakta-vrinda ki jai. Gaur Premanandi Hari Hari Bo. See you tomorrow night. Same time, same place, same topic. And we'll continue to taste the transcendental nectar of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's pastimes. The sweetest thing ever. Hare Krishna.